Yeah, it's obviously had a long and somewhat rough life, but it's a high-quality piece.
This could well have seen action in the Wars of the Roses. It's found in the Midlands, it dates from the second half of the 15th century. We just don't know the origin of this. So little English armour survives from before 1500. If it is English, it's evidence of very high level of skill and artistry. The plasticity of the form technically is extremely hard to do. That's a shape that would be quite familiar to a modern-day Olympic cyclist, for example. But the evidence just isn't there. We just have to say it's possibly English because of its history, but we don't know.
The album allowed historians to match the designs and the men who commissioned them with surviving armours in the real world.
Today, we tend to separate art from violence, and this distinction didn't exist in the 16th century. It was perfectly possible, if you want to put it one way, to be maimed or killed with an object made with absolutely exquisite artistry and beauty. These armours are decorated with the same sources that inspired silverwork and tapestries and so forth, but it is always worth remembering that they were designed to save your life. They don't sit on a shelf in a treasury. They are working objects designed to protect somebody in the most frightening and traumatic situation.
Yeah, the violence itself becomes a kind of artistic statement in a strange way. I mean, the fighting skills are called martial arts. It's the skill of killing someone in a beautiful way. That seems strange, but that's the Renaissance mentality. The things that modern people might find distasteful in the Renaissance go hand in hand with works of the most stunning beauty.
That distinction is one of the things that has separated armour from mainstream art history. And this is where this album is absolutely pivotal.
Yeah, absolutely.
The various poses you see in the album, the naming of the individuals for whom they were commissioned, it all lends itself to the seriousness with which the subject was treated during the 16th century, when the Greenwich armories were in their heyday. We've often been asked about the red colour on the album itself, and so we recently had them tested. And it's shown that the red is actually an iron oxide. And what we originally wondered was, is that the case that you colour these in an iron oxide in order to save cost, because blue would have been more expensive, would have come from something like a lapis.
So what we think now is that the red is just a cheap paint that is meant to stand for the rich blue, purpley, iridescent color that these armors generally were given.
Yes, and this wasn't once blue and it's faded or deteriorated into this color. They have always been this red color.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a period with no king to risk upstaging. What Elizabeth did was foster an element of competition among her courtiers. So they would be vying for the grandest armour to impress her at court pageantry and during tournaments. So you have someone like Sir Christopher Hatton, who has several armours in the album, paying up to £500 a time for a full garniture, and actually running up enormous debts, going to his grave owing £42,000, some chunk of it presumably from his armour commissions.
£500 in the 16th century is an extraordinary amount of money.
We're talking over £1 million.
Millions of pounds, certainly.
It's probably the second most expensive thing you would buy as a nobleman after commissioning a castle or a palace.